I learned that I needed to put a full explanation of this symbol. I did the Star of David, not with the ring around it. The ring around it is the universal symbol of the sun. As a word, it refers to the fulfillment child of King David restoring his kingdom. So there's King David with the Star of David and his kingdom, and then the circle around it for the universal symbol of the sun, tying to Emmanuel, who is his Solomon, the birthright blessing son, through great and abominable church that Joseph Smith talks about. So that's the difference between the two words and the symbol. So David, by the way, the double D's is love, and it's a combined love meaning, because Hebrew words are not just designated with one meaning. And so it's both sexual love and able to have babies, and then nurturing love of babies being nurtured by their mothers. Double D's. So that's where David symbolism comes in. And so the Christ symbol of the Jews with the circle around it, the shield of David, is the child who is the beneficiary of the love of the Davidic line, the Davidic parents, genealogy. Travis went and get some. So I found where my bling are, so I got this back. And I found my Urim and Thummim. And I've got to wear the other jeans that I found. And so I need to shower and shave and put on new clothes. I only found one other collared shirt. Still looking for the other collared shirts. I found the t-shirts though, with the other shirts that, where did I put that? Over by the closet. With the other souvenir Latter-day t-shirts. And then my family crest and the sunstone. So the names, signs, and tokens of the Holy Priesthood. So let's go over symbolism. I might as well. I'm still waiting for the promise to be kept by the person in the shelter to pay March's rent. And so she's gone silent today. So, yeah, it costs a lot of money to move. Not just to pay to move out, but then to get in for the first time around. A lot of money. And thus, the shelter needs to keep their promises. So, alright, symbolism. This, you at first glance would say, oh, it's the Star of David. You'd be partially correct. There's this kingdom of David, but then there are the prophecies of the restoration of the kingdom of David. Through Solomon as his one name, but Emmanuel as the name, and thus the house of El, the family crest. But also the symbol for David are the two deltas, D's, in Greek, but also in Paleo-Hebrew. They are the same picture language. Greek incorporated some more characters, but having deciphered them, I am able to be exclusive in sharing with you the meaning of words and symbols and stuff like that. So when Nelson botches translation, I can not only tell you that he botched translation and how he botched translation, but correct the translation for what it should have been, and so forth and forever. So when the triangle is pointing up, that's for male, not postman male, male, human man male. It's his phallus symbol in Egyptian hieroglyphs. And when it's pointing down, it's the woman. And cuneiform utilizes those two symbols for their whole language. It's just male and female symbols in different formations and styles and quantities to come up with their language. And there's a little bit more difficulty than that. If you're thinking alphabetic, you're going to be confused trying to figure it out. But for Paleo-Hebrew, it's more simple, even though a picture does not have one specific meaning. And so if you're wanting me to give you just one definition, ain't going to happen, because a picture is worth 1,000 words, literally. And so they're combined together to form the Star of David, male and female. And in so doing, they form the sun at noonday. That is Emmanuel, the Egyptian sun god, Amun, at noonday. That's where Isaiah got it from. And that is the name of their Christ for the latter days, which we're in the final year of the latter days. 8 April 2024 is it. It's over. It's done. We're supposed to have the millennium. Or, as Joseph Smith warned, we're going to have utter destruction if Mormons decide to be completely disobedient and rebellious. And so far, you're doing great, Mormons. We're headed for oblivion. Good job. And you hate me for it? Right. So, all you had to do was hearken. That was it. But, I don't know, Jesus blinded you. So, because Jesus ain't the Jewish Christ. We have nothing to do with Christianity. Joseph Smith even told us we have nothing to do with Christianity. In fact, Jesus is an abomination. Verse 19 of the Joseph Smith history, which are actually visions, not literal history. But who changed them? Who replaced Joseph Smith's Jewish religion with Christianity? Who could have done that? The missionaries were responsible for going around and converting people to the correct church. What happened? What did Brigham Young do? Yeah. So why ex-Mormons can't figure this out is beyond me. I'm very confused, ex-Mormons. Why can't you figure it out? It's blatantly obvious Brigham Young is the evil guy who framed Joseph Smith and changed everything, replaced everything. He's the white supremacist, racist, sexist, bigot, neglectful of the poor, and anti-Semitic. So, yeah. So on the Nauvoo Temple, that's where you'll see the sunstone. It's the Omega symbol, and it's the Egyptian horizon, the Akhet. And so Akhet Aten, the horizon of the Aten, the sun disk. And in Egyptian, there's 3 phases of the sun: sunrise, noon, and sunset. Amun is noon, Kefre is sunrise, and Atum is sunset. He's the Ancient of Days. Oh, Adam, Ancient of Days. There's something about that in Mormonism, isn't there? Yeah. He is the first man in the Egyptian mythology. but it's a little different than we have it in our Old Testament or Genesis account. I should say Genesis account because Old Testament is Christianizing the Jewish literature, because there is no testament of Jesus involved. And so when Benson, while Kimball was on his deathbed, changed the Book of Mormon to another testament of Jesus Christ, he went beyond his authority to do so, because it's Jewish literature. 1 Nephi chapter 1 verse 2. So Benson's not as smart with the Book of Mormon as he pretends to be. And so he was pushing the Book of Mormon to deceive you with the false interpretation of it with Christianity and Jesus, and thus lead you away from the true interpretation of Jewish understanding and Kabbalah, so that you can understand better the tree of life, for example, and how to perfect yourself as a human being. And so on the Nauvoo temple, the sunstone is at the bottom position, the sunrise position. And so this is Joseph Smith starting up the church and the morning of the latter days at the beginning. So it's the sunrise sun. And so then in the noon position, Brigham Young altered it after Joseph Smith had been assassinated, and was able to tell the architect to change it and put the inverted pentagram of Lucifer at the noonday position. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? Venus never, ever, 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 ever ascends to the noonday position, at least that we can see on Earth. Why? Because once the sun has risen in the sky, it blinds out all of the stars in heaven, and we get daylight. And so Venus, being on the inside of Earth towards the sun, never ascends to the noonday position, and thus is the symbol of Lucifer. And so Venus, also being female, is also the bride of Lucifer, the church of Lucifer. If you go to the Ephesians, the church is the bride of Jesus, and so Lucifer's bride is his church. Those symbolic representations, and obviously it's not Jesus, because that was Jewish. Ephesians was Jewish, not Christian. Christianity was not created until 325 CE. Anything before 325 CE is not Christian. So frustrating when you change things in the past to be what you now interpret it. That's called an anachronism. You are altering the meaning, you are altering the interpretation, and you are automatically wrong from the original author's intention and meaning and symbolism and prophecy. And so no, there will be no Jesus for a second coming, because there are no prophecies of such an event. The apocalypse of Matthew, the apocalypse of Mark, the apocalypse of Luke, the apocalypse of John, which is a different apocalypse than his actual apocalypse, book of Revelation, they are all pre-Christianity. They are Jewish literature too. And the Egyptians were the source of their prophecies. So, yeah, and so the star on top, which was on the overhanging portion of the roof, I think, is the Jewish star for the old religion that is setting. So Brigham Young demonstrated that he had assassinated Joseph Smith, couped his church, and is doing away with Judaism as well. So that's the symbol of the Nauvoo Temple. And then, of course, when he fled the United States to Mexico territory, He then went back and had the Nauvoo temple burned because he didn't want to be responsible for it. He could have just abandoned it. He had fled the country. But it has symbolic significance for him to burn it, because the whole Adam-on-Diamond thing. Oh, I found the book, Way to Perfection. I found it. I found that prop. Page 290. We're getting it. Hold on. Oh, cool. There's paper towels. Oh, is it over there? Yeah, finally got paper towels. Good, so I can now start doing stuff. So, A Way to Perfection. You've probably seen the footnote, or the thumbnail picture, where this is right here in the picture. This is what caused the church to say, oh crap, we've got to evict Travis immediately. We've got to destroy him. He found out. Yep. Page 290 and 291. Because this was their threat to me that they put at the bus stop where I get my money, where I got my money on a weekly basis, letting me know I had gone too far. This is their death threat to me, because soon thereafter the people quit, no longer could get my money. So it wasn't until I got into the shelter that I was able to. It opens right up to it. It's been so used. And so, yeah, it's under By Voice of the Priesthood. And this is by Joseph Fielding Smith Jr. And it's about Adam-on-Diamond and the council in the latter days. Now, I've gone over to expose that the Danites had used their headquarters at Newell K. Whitney's house right by Spring Hill, which it was referred to in code as Adam-on-Diamond. We know that it's a fraud, not by Joseph Smith, because one, it's spelled wrong. It's A-H-M-A-N. Joseph Smith in the Joseph Smith papers always spelled Amen, because he was the one that was trying to teach people how to pronounce it, A-W-M-E-N. And so if I were to always refer to Amen as A-W-M-E-N, Mormons wouldn't know what I'm talking about. And so I'm forced to always put A-H-M-A-N so that Mormons know what I'm talking about in my videos and in my thumbnails. And looking at the Joseph Smith papers, I found the document for section 116 that talks about Adam-on-Diamond. And it's blatantly obvious that it's been forged. And a long time afterward. Because you have the original document that ended partway down. And they had crossed it out, and it was faded, and had not been used to continue on any further. And so all of a sudden you've got fresh ink at the bottom, and it's talking about Adam-on-Diamond, about Joseph Smith going out there and surveying the land and going, this is Adam on Diamond. This is where Adam, blah, blah, blah. And so, no, none of it happened. The Danites, under Brigham Young, with his clerks, forged the document, and thus forged the section. And so that's right around, they set it up so that 116, 117, 118, 119 are right there before we get to Joseph Smith and Liberty Jail, which are legitimate documents that we can tie to Joseph Smith. And so Brigham Young purposely set things up to lead into this. Exactly the same setup that he did the year before he died, in which he removed Joseph Smith's chapter on monogamy, which I'm surprised Brigham Young didn't remove earlier, because in 1851 he came out and publicly said, we now have to practice polygamy or we're all going to burn in hell. None of us can be exalted. We have to practice polygamy. Nothing we can do about it. That's the law. And so the year before he died, all of a sudden this document attributed to Joseph Smith, where Joseph Smith is going to threaten Emma with death if she doesn't let Joseph have more wives. It's supposedly written in 1843, not 1832, but after Brigham Young came out in 1851, section 132 has now a context for 1832 because people were now writing in their journal, yeah, Joseph told me that an angel with wings appeared and had a flaming sword, and he said, you better practice polygamy immediately or I'm going to kill you. And then demanded that it be practiced openly in defiance of the laws of the United States. And so Joseph obviously didn't do that. And he died some 10 plus years after that, 12 years after. Yeah, you can't trust people's journals when they're written after the fact. It exposes that they were purposely setting things up to frame Joseph after he's dead still, because he was framed into Liberty Jail with the election fraud caused by the Danites in Adam on Diamond. Yeah, they used Adam on Diamond. All the Danites came there and then marched down to the other part of Daviess County where the election was being held and caused the fight. And Chris Stewart, Representative Chris Stewart from Utah in the House of Representatives of the United States, his ancestor was the first one to get punched and knocked down. and the Mormon War began. And so, yeah, it was the Danites, ex-Mormons, Danites. And so, yeah, that the Adam on Diamond thing is tied into the symbolism of the latter-day coup of America in order to restore the kingdom of Brigham Young, Zion, with election fraud and anything else that they can do to overthrow the American government, even if states secede from the nation. Oh, the cocaine bear woman. Marjorie Taylor Greene. I want a national divorce. It'll probably be by the GOP states who just don't want to be a part of the nation. Yeah, they're pushing it. Anything they can do to divide this nation and overthrow it, to stop the federal government from functioning. That's what they're trying to do. And this is, they're not Mormon, but they were from the original group, the Illuminati, who wanted to do this to America and had plotted for 200 years. And so the Book of Mormon is that warning to us of that threat to destroy America. And so the kingmen, that Captain Moroni had to go and have free men save the Constitution of the United States of Mosiah. Yeah, they're purposely written in code for us. Symbolic type and shadows. And so, ex-Mormons, you're right. There are plagiarism of contemporary literature, but it was done with a specific purpose. Late war. Can you get a clue why they'd use the late war? Any clue at all? Latter days? War? Armageddon? Ringing any bells? There's a reason why they used what they used in the Book of Mormon, and it was all part of the coding. And so, yes, people are supposed to find out that it's plagiarized. That's the whole intention, but you have to do your study and research. If you don't, you're not going to find it. And if you quit after you find out it's plagiarized and say, this is a fraud, you've missed the point and intention of the book. The warning voice. And so this right here exposes the church's part of the plot as to what they are planning to do in these latter days. And they've already done it. Because they've already had the meeting in Adam-on-Diamond. The governments have already given over the keys to Jesus. So let me go over it with you. This council, it's under By Voice of the Priesthood, starts on page 290 in this edition. Other editions I'm sure might be in different page numbers or whatever, but I don't have those editions, so I am only able to give you this edition with this page number. It starts on page 90 at the bottom. See? Right here. By Voice of the Priesthood. This council in the Valley of Adam-on-Diamond. Okay? And there is no priesthood meeting going to be held there. It wasn't held there. This is all code. Remember? Paying for election fraud. Paying for the war in Ezekiel chapter 38. Heading by Bruce R. McConkie. Russia, Ukraine, is to be the greatest importance to this world. And it's sad because Joseph Fielding Smith came from Hiram Smith, but his wife was kidnapped, and so Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. and thus Jr. were indoctrinated into the evil empire. And it breaks my heart. And if I keep talking about it and go over the history of it, it's going to make me cry. But I'd always wondered why she went, but not Lucy, not William, none of the others who did not know of Joseph Smith's whole thing. Because even John Solomon Fulmer went when he was knowing that Joseph Smith was the good guy and that Brigham Young was the bad guy. Because Desdemona Fulmer was taken hostage, and she was sealed after the murder to Joseph Smith. All of Joseph Smith's wives, after his death, not before, after. We know it from our family line. So why don't ex-Mormons know this? Why isn't the church telling this? So the church is saying that Joseph Smith was sealed to 23 wives, Desdemona Fulmer being one of them, before he died, 1843. No. But anyway, at that time, there will be a transfer of authority from the usurper and impostor Lucifer? Huh. To the rightful king, Jesus Christ? Created by Constantine? Huh. The abominable Christ that Joseph Smith talks about in 119 of Joseph Smith history? visions. Do you see what they did there? He's using symbolism himself to encode what they're planning on doing. Jesus Christ is Lucifer. But the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is what he's talking about here. They're giving it to the church, not to Jesus. Who's giving it to Jesus? Lucifer. Transfer of authority. Who usurped the kingdom. And so for the church part, Brigham Young usurped Joseph Smith's authority. Usurped the church. It has to be restored. But not through Jesus, to Emmanuel, whom Joseph Smith says is a Mormon. But he's not talking about that. He says Adam Diamond. That's the code. This is the coup of the church that he's referring to here. The coup of America that he's referring to. And so Lucifer, he's calling the government of the United States of America. And it's actually accurate. When you look at the GOP elephant and the KKK that used to be the Democrat Party, yes, the government has been couped. And so thus by Lucifer. But so is the church. But here he's saying that the United States will give authority to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And like I said, it already happened. Which means that there are going to be election frauds. Oh, we've already had those, haven't we? Yeah. It's a dirty book. And so, judgment will be set, and all who have held keys will make their reports and deliver their stewardships as they shall be required. Our Lord will then assume the reins of government. Directions will be given to the priesthood. The coup of the church, or coup of America. And so we now see in retrospect the reason why the church was doing business with Russia. Not just to cause the war in Ukraine, but to also tamper in the 2016 election. They were working with Russia for a temple in Russia. This is a business deal. To put the King Zedekiah, we'll use code, on the throne of the United States in the first year of the latter days. 1 Nephi chapter 1. That's the latter days, the first of the latter days, 2017. And so, when he came to visit the church leaders at Welfare Square, he revealed that he was doing business with the church leaders in advance. He says that we had talked about such and such and such and such. Why did you talk about this? So he revealed that they had a little discussion prior to the press coverage that we were seeing. And, dear God. And so now we realize that, there was collusion and there was conspiracy, as we're now finding out also that Mueller was silenced by Bill Barr. The same Bill Barr who if you remember, I sued the church, and the second time I sued the church, that went to Bill Barr. All RICO cases are supposed to go to the U.S. Attorney General. Bill Barr, I learned, had actually gotten a hold of it to read it, even though I knew he had rejected it, because my case then went forward, went forward to dismiss it. But nonetheless, Bill Barr came out that weekend before I was able to sort of proceed to be denied, and thus denied a petition for a redress of grievances. But Bill Barr came out that weekend having been in the news talking to prosecutors, saying that he had learned of a specific law in the law code, which was the law code that I had charged the church with: seditious conspiracy under RICO. And so he told the prosecutors to use that against the Black Lives Matter protesters. That was not my intention, but fortunately the prosecutors did not do that. And as we all know now, the prosecutors for January 6th are using my lawsuit against the church. And they've gotten some convictions, and some high-profile convictions. And they haven't proceeded forth yet with that special counsel person. He's not done it yet. He's still calling people in for interviews. And there's some issues that have gone to the court. But the Georgia state courts are about to go forward with stuff similar to the federal investigation. So yes, I am Captain Moroni, who's trying to save America from the Kingmen, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so yes, this call for a divorce, a secession from the nation, is just another method of destroying America. So there's foreign governments attacking. There's the coup attempt directly. There's election fraud attempts. There's calls for secession. And actual natural disaster destructions to murder off the citizens of this nation. Those also are involved. And the pollutions and the other atrocities that are going on in our nation are all part of this. They're to wear us down, to weaken us, to divide us, to conquer us, to destroy America. And all right here, by a prophet of the living Jesus. Which I don't think this was when he was a prophet. This was when he was an apostle. Because Gene Curtis is the original person of the book, or at least that's the signature of it. 1978 is when it was published. Deseret News Press. And so 1978, Joseph Fielding Smith Jr., maybe? Because his was shortened, I think, and then there was several shortened ones as I was, well, that was when I was born. 78, I thought was Kimball. So maybe it was Kimball into, or Smith into Kimball. Slow, very slow, whiteout conditions. I found my boots. These boots were made for walking. And so I'll be able to wear those tomorrow morning when it's going to be snowing. And you're not going to bring it up, are you? I had such high hopes when I got this new internet that I wouldn't have these problems anymore. Not to be the case. Okay. Joseph Fielding Smith Jr. January 23rd, 1970 to July 2nd, 1972. Okay, so yeah, this was published after his death. If it's 1978. Yeah, okay, so this is the 16th printing. Oh, okay. So what was the original one? The preface. These were printed in the issues from October 1931 to 1932. What? So senior? What? Are you kidding me? Is this senior's work? And what? 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 Okay, during the last 2 decades, lessons in genealogical research and temple work have been prepared by the Genealogical Society of Utah for the benefit and guidance of all members of the church who are interested in the salvation of the dead. A great deal of the material in these lessons, of necessity, have been reported from year to year, for the study of genealogy is of such nature that definite and unchanging principles govern definite and unchanging principles. Did you catch that? And so Joseph Fielding Smith Jr. is my birth president. Born on March 17th, 1970. He was put in January. Oh, just like Nelson. Isn't that interesting? The publication of this text, The Way to Perfection, has come about through repeated requests from our workers for a faith-promoting discussion. Telling Mormons that we're criminals is not faith-promoting, and we don't want to report it to the SEC. Doctrinal principles and historical themes which justify the large place salvation for the living and the dead occupies in the life of every Latter-day Saint. After much hesitation on his part, the author was persuaded and appointed by the board of directors. Oh, it is Joseph Fielding Smith. On August 1st, 1831. Yeah, these were printed in the issues from October 1931 to July 1932. Fascinating. So it's seniors' work, not juniors. I have to make a correction. This is even sadder. Oh, man. Wow. So, yeah, the language of Adam, Egyptian. Egyptian. It's not hard. It's Egyptian. So, he knew of it. Damn. That's harsh. Brainwashed to believe the enemy. So, Yeah. Wow. So yeah, I've got to wash my hands. But yeah, the final year, guys, of the latter days, and we are witnessing their desperate attempts, despite me daring to molest and make them afraid. But yeah, they've done much damage to my life. So, wow. Huh. Alrighty.